DJing in the 80s. It was a time of big hair and bigger speakers. It was a time when DJs mixed with their ears and not their eyes. I mean, I think so. I wasn't a DJ back then. And because I learned to DJ with modern tech and modern technology, I started to wonder, could I survive as a DJ without it? So to find out, I'm spending a week in the 80s where I'll have to find the gear, get the records, learn how to DJ on vinyl, and finally play a live set. This was the 1980s. Would I even survive as a DJ? To answer that totally awesome question, we have to go back. I was a kid in the 80s, and although I don't exactly remember what it was like, I do remember it was totally radical, dude. The 80s was a turning point in music, and before I even touched the decks, I wanted to spend some time studying it. I found some old footage and interviews and documentaries so I could try to understand the role of the DJ back then. And what I found was that these weren't just clubs or scenes. For a lot of people, especially in Black and queer communities, the club was the only place they could fully be themselves. And the DJ helped create that space.
Whenever we heard about, like, okay, you have to go to this one place, it was always the warehouse. Especially if you were like a gay teen, it didn't matter what ethnicity you were, but that was the one place that was like Mecca. You have to check this place out. You have to check this place out.
And at the center of it was Frankie Knuckles, playing at the warehouse. He blended disco, soul, and drum machines into longer hypnotic mixes designed to keep people dancing all night. This became house music, a sound built in the club and shaped by the DJ.
It was anything that Frankie Knuckles would play at the warehouse, which was the coolest underground dance music.
In Chicago, DJs started stretching disco records, looping sections, and building something new.
Some of the records were too short, so Frankie would mess with them and have two copies and make them longer, and also like play the breakdown twice or play the best part a couple of times or skip the shitty part.
And sometimes it was just like this sort of soundscape.
One of the sound effects Frankie would do would be this train that gets louder and louder and louder, and until it comes by you, it was like a revelation.
He didn't just mix a couple of records. He brought in a whole new style of music. That's something.
In New York, DJs went a different direction. They weren't just playing records, they were using them as instruments. Pioneers like Grandmaster Flash, Kool Herc, and Grand Wizard Theodore developed techniques like scratching, cutting, and the merry-go-round method.
I taught myself how to scratch, how to put records in reverse and make them stay on beat, and how to phase two records together.
Back then, we had to buy 2 copies of every record. That's how you did tricks back in the day. You would, cut 1 into 2, and that was our equivalent of sampling.
They isolated the best parts of records, the breaks, and extended them to create entirely new energy on the dance floor. And across all these scenes, one thing stayed the same. The DJ was at the center. And the more I studied it, the more I realized how much skill this actually took. I had done the research, but now I had to step in and try it myself. And hopefully, I can do it justice. Oh my God. Oh yeah, piece of cake. What have I gotten myself into? All right, where's my glasses? Hold on. All right. Oh God. Jesus, take the wheel. I have it in my headphones. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm gonna be an idol DJ. Okay, calm down. Calm down, Lavonda. In the 80s, this was step 1. Finding and then hauling these heavy-ass turntables around. These aren't actual 80s techniques. Techniques? They're Audio-Technica turntables and a Newmark M6 mixer circa 2009. But the rules are still the same. Just the music and my ears. My friend Nancy was kind enough to let me borrow her gear, and she told me all about the parties and wild club scene that she used to DJ in the 1980s. And I just really want to take a moment and shout her out. Nancy told me all kinds of stories, and she made it sound easy. Okay, how hard could this be, right? I mean, power, Do we have a power button? Okay, here it is. Power. Off, on. What am I not getting about this? Oh, well, oh, okay, there it is. Okay, we just turn it. Oh my God, okay. This is great. My life is nearly complete. So I've got my one record. Push the button, gently drop it. Oh shit. Oh my God. Oh my God, okay. This is how DJing started. Maybe? The problem is I only have one record, and actually Nancy gave me this record. Of course it's about the bush. So tomorrow we're gonna have to go out and get some music. Let's go. So day 2 starts the only way it could in the 80s, getting the records. I found some 80s bush. If you were a DJ in the 80s, this was your algorithm. Dusty bins with handwritten dividers and word of mouth. DJs would spend hours in record shops listening to new releases and searching to find the white labels or promo 12-inch records before anyone else. And these? They weren't cheap. In the early 80s, a new LP generally cost between $7 to $12. Adjusted for inflation, these records would cost approximately $20 to $30 plus in today's money. With my records purchased, I couldn't wait to get back home and see what I could do. Okay, yesterday I bought some records. Today we're gonna see if I can mix them. No waveforms, no sync, just my ears. And because we're in the 1980s, there's no YouTube to help. There's just me and my super slick new portable phone. So I need to call a friend who can actually help me. Hey, you wanna come over and help me with my new turntables?
Mixer-wise, real simple. I mean, obviously...
This is my friend, It's Relay, a DJ based out of LA, turntablist who somehow puts up with my antics. And he actually knows what he's doing, which makes one of us. So today, he's gonna attempt to teach me how to DJ on vinyl before I embarrass myself.
To start learning to match the beats, it would probably just be play the beginnings of these two, because it's this dry drum. Your headphones.
Oh gosh, okay.
So you're gonna push start here.
Oh, right.
Remember, push start here. Push start here.
Push start. Okay, I was just finding the beat.
There you go.
Oops. Oh boy. This is harder than I thought. Oops, so I thought it was right, but then it wasn't. Oh my God, I'm so bad at this. Oh shit. I don't know if there's hope for me.
There will be. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then remember to turn the bass on the one that's coming in as well. Much better.
How'd I do?
Much better.
Better?
Much better.
Yeah!
Volume is different,
Right.
but as far as what you're doing,
Okay.
we're in like Flynn.
Woo! I'm exhausted.
Forget to hit subscribe? Watch this.
Clap on, clap off, subscribe on.
2 claps and you're in. New videos, tutorials, all of it. Just clap twice.
This went on for a while. It's Relay patiently explaining how to cue the records and match the beats, by writing the tempo faders and slowing and speeding the records, and also phrasing the records so I know when to come in. The stickers! Then he taught me about using stickers to label the record for where the first beat is, and also about setting up a system to remind myself of important information.
The sticker system will have like 2 stickers on it because it's like play the second like, don't play it from the beginning, play it from the second
Okay,
break.
so you have like your
There's
own little...
You'll figure out as you go. So you're gonna be hearing this beat a lot for the next few minutes.
Okay,
So I'm
like
glad you enjoyed it.
Yes, I'm all about this beat. Then we went back to beat matching because I clearly needed more practice with it.
1 hour later.
Not bad? I don't know, man. I'm gonna need to take some time off of work to figure this out. Next came my scratching lesson, and I honestly was so bad at it, I'm not even putting it in here. But check its relay out. Okay, the gear works. I have some records. The next step is gonna be organizing the music, getting the playlist ready, and setting up the booth. When you're DJing vinyl, the record itself is the information. There's no waveforms, there's no BPM, it's just you and the music. And so DJs have their own way of remembering things. So today, I'm gonna build a set the old school way by listening, taking notes, and figuring out which records go together. Relay taught me about the stickers showing the first beat. So I listened and marked all my records to help me with my set. Then I started putting the records into pockets or groupings of tracks I thought would sound good together. Now, because these are all songs I know inside and out from years of listening to them, I sorted them in my crate and I tested some of them to make sure that they sounded okay together. Okay, I think I have the set somewhat organized and put together, and I spent the better part of the day practicing my beat matching and phrasing. Tomorrow, we'll find out if I can pull this off because I'm gonna do this set live on Twitch. But we gotta do one more thing to get ready, and that is set up the booth for recording. So the first step in setting up the booth was completely dismantling my very modern, very extra DJ setup. I had my Machine MK3, my Boss RC505, all routed through Deck 4 on the Opus Quad like some kind of DJ octopus situation that only really made sense in my head. And now, all of it had to go. So I started unplugging cables and, well, labeling them because I know myself. If I don't label these, I'm not rebuilding this setup until at least next year. Once that was handled, I pulled out the Opus Quad and started building the setup from scratch. 2 turntables, 1 mixer, of course a mic. I ran everything into my interface, did a quick sound check, made sure I could hear it in my monitors, and more importantly, that OBS could hear it. Because nothing says successful live stream like DJing in complete silence. That was a lot. And honestly, I'm pretty nervous because I've had to cram a lot into a few days, and I really want to do this justice. Also, I don't want to get destroyed in the chat and in the comments. Am I going to be able to pull this off? I guess we'll find out tomorrow. Yeah, about copyright. I recorded the full set and I'll put it on my second channel if you want to hear how it sounded. The link's in the description, just go easy on me. But honestly, the set wasn't even the most interesting part. The process was. All week I've been trying to learn to DJ the way they did back before the tech lowered the barrier to entry, and I gotta say, it is hard. You're listening, adjusting, nudging the record forward, pulling it back, hoping the mix doesn't fall apart, and sometimes it does. But when it finally clicks, when the mix actually locks in, I nailed it. What a rush. And I get it now. Why people fall in love with vinyl. Because you have to earn every moment. My set was far from perfect, but I'm going to keep practicing and keep learning. And this challenge gave me some real perspective on the craft and art of DJing. And somewhere in all of this, I realized something else. I miss the way we used to experience music. Not scrolling, not skipping, not hoarding thousands of tracks, just knowing your music and actually holding it in your hands. So could I survive as a DJ in the 80s? Maybe. But after doing this for a week, I do know this. I don't think we made DJing easier. I think we just made it easier to forget what made it special